All right, folks, today we have some big updates when it comes to Nintendo Switch 2. These might be some of the biggest updates we've done because part of this is real news. We have actual information coming directly from Nintendo about a feature for Nintendo Switch 2 that should be really exciting, especially for those people that were worried that some games based on certain storage mediums on Switch 2 might struggle a little bit, especially compared to the internal storage. So we're going to go ahead and talk about that because, oh boy, Nintendo just had something happen that's really exciting for that. A confirmation that we've all been waiting for. And the other piece of news we have is, guys, there is a high likelihood that one of Nintendo's massive assemblers, Foxconn, might have been shipping a crap load of fully completed Nintendo Switch 2 units in retail boxes. Oh, this is pretty exciting stuff, guys. I told you, I'm so hyped for this. We can speculate on what that means in a moment. Before we dive in, I want to remind you that we are on our road to 140,000 subscribers. So if you want to stay up to date on Switch 2, all you got to do is subscribe right here at Nintendo Prime. Oh, and before I do, I got to tell you about today's sponsor. This video is sponsored by the camera you're looking at me through right now. This is the OBSBOT Tiny Light 2, and we're actually recording in 4K 30. It does support up to 4K 30 and does do 1080p 60. Now, the biggest calling card to this new camera from OBSBOT is that it follows you around. It has like a gimbal-like functionality to it, which obviously adds a lot of dynamicism to your things. Like, look, as I show you how the microphones work on this, I can walk all the way back here. I can walk all the way over here. It just follows me around. It's really cool. It's literally like having someone behind the camera. You can obviously use this camera as well and stop it from moving. All you gotta do is hold up your hand. It does have hand gestures, and then it will pick up this hand when you open it up like that, and it'll go green, and now the camera is locked in place, just like a traditional webcam. This is perfect for when you're streaming games and stuff like that. But the thing about this camera is it's multifunctional. So I can obviously undo that by holding my hand up. And again, it will start to follow me around. You can go ahead and check out the OBSBOT Tiny Light 2 down through the link in the description. And again, shout out to OBSBOT for sponsoring this video. All right, so the first story we're going to dive into deals with these shipments from Foxconn and some crazy stuff going on. And all credit to this goes over to a handful of users, 3 in particular, over at FamiBoard. So let's go take a look here. You see Loon Twink here, a contributor. He kind of compiled all this from other people's posts. So it's really by FWD-BWD and this other guy, Hoser Mess, not Homer. Man, I've been watching The Simpsons lately. And it says, fun update came over on the hardware thread. Thanks again to the impressive work of FWB-BWD, along with a nice comment by Hoser Mess, cross-posting here for amusement. So here it goes. A few weeks ago, he wrote about the earnings conference at Foxconn Technology, a Nintendo contracted assembler, in which they disclosed some game console technologies and hinted at mass assembly of Switch 2 in Q4. Now we have concrete financial proof. So these are the months of the year for 2024 at Foxconn. And look at this massive increase in the 11th month, 223.18%, 11 million increase. What is going on here? Why are things so crazy in November? So this is obviously the new Taiwanese dollar. Foxconn Tech, not the Hanhei Foxconn Group, its parent company, just released their November operating income, over 11.4 billion NTD. This is their highest monthly revenue since October 2021, a 74% increase month over month, and a whopping 223% growth year over year. Since the company did not forecast any revenue increases for other lines of their business, and I didn't see any news reports suggesting otherwise, the ballooning income most likely came from Switch 2 assembly. Note that the number does not indicate the mass assembly only began in November, although we don't know the contract terms between Nintendo and FTC. Manufacturing contracts are often commonly structured as net 30 or net 60 terms, meaning that the payment is due within 30 or 60 days of invoicing. So mass assembly could start from as early as September. All right, we go on here. Hoser Mess comes in. Depends on how they do their accounting. If they count revenue when the work is invoiced, then it doesn't matter when they receive payment for it or what their terms are, which would mean a November start. Either way, All the smoke, like actual number crunching, verifiable data smoke, means a second half 2025 release is not something to worry about, which I'm sure I have said many times before in this thread about various other dates. But this time, and then FWDBWD comes back and says, thanks, a very good point that I didn't consider. So I went back and read Foxconn Tech's financial report. Foxconn Tech uses International Financial Reporting Standards, the IFRS, for their financial reports. Under IFRS, revenue is recognized when control of the asset is transferred to the customer. So this is about stuff they've already done when it's transferred to the actual customer. Quoting Foxconn's report, the group is primarily engaged in manufacturing and sale of consumer electronic products. Sales are recognized when control of the product has transferred, being when the products are delivered to the customer. The customer has full discretion over the channel and price to sell the products, and there is no unfulfilled obligation that could affect the customer's acceptance of the products. Delivery occurs when the products have been shipped to the specific location. If I'm reading this correctly, it suggests that in November, and again, depends on Net 30, Next 60, November, whatever, there were already possibly a lot of completed Switch 2 units in retail boxes transferred from Foxconn to Nintendo, just sitting in a warehouse or warehouses somewhere. Now, disclaimer, I'm not an accountant and interpretation could be wrong. And then this comes in and says the long and short of it is that Foxconn, one of the companies making the Switch 2, reported making a ton of money recently, and if this money was due to Switch 2 things, as it seems likely, it concretely means Foxconn probably shipped a bunch of completed product around November, possibly earlier. Disclaimers are abound. There could be some details that are a bit awry, but hey, this is another sign that mass production has been underway for a little while now. Not just mass production, mass assembly! Guys, if you think second half of 2025 is still possible after this, what's wrong with you, man? I don't know how it's... If they have like hundreds of thousands, millions of completed product in box, in a warehouse, what are we doing? So basically, Foxconn could only have all this money because they have sent off the completed product to the customer. So this is extremely, extremely exciting news and really brings to the forefront this idea that the Nintendo Switch 2 is being revealed really soon. We obviously know by the end of March, right? Nintendo's already put that out there. I'm starting to think no later than January. We have completed units in box that Nintendo has in their possession in their own warehouses. Yeah, it's only a matter of time before snap, little cell phone pictures start leaking out. Nintendo clearly wants to get ahead of that. They don't want this thing to leak out in that way. So I do foresee them revealing it in January. Might fit another rumor we had earlier, but we'll have to wait and see on that front. One thing I also want to point out is some people are holding out a smidge of hope for the Game Awards. I do think it's unlikely they reveal it at the Game Awards. I just think Nintendo likes to have their own event for this stuff. However, a teaser, so companies could put Switch 2 logos, and that teaser reveals a date for a full reveal in January. I can't rule that out entirely. It's certainly possible, although I do think it's unlikely. Nintendo doesn't have the greatest relationship with Jeff Keighley, but I'm just throwing that out there as, hey, man, that is probably like the soonest you could see Nintendo reveal it at this point would be, what, December 12th for the Game Awards, like a week from now, so Thursday? Damn. So we'll see what happens, guys, but I just wanted to point that out there because, again, this is some pretty exciting stuff. Now, this next up, we have this interesting bit here where Nintendo is hiring someone. And because they're hiring someone, you can tell what Nintendo is working on. And through this hiring post, we have discovered something quite interesting. Now, this is a shout out to Super Metal Dave 64 because I noticed it in his video. We'll put a link down to it down in the description. But we have the hiring post as well. And it looks like Nintendo is going to be using the latest and greatest technology when it comes to the micro SD card. That's us. We're talking about micro SD Express. This is extremely exciting because if you're worried about load times and all that being like significantly different or just not even working in some cases with Switch 2 games that want to do faster dynamic loading and you're putting the games on a micro SD card, not the internal storage, this is really great news. So how do we know this? Well, here's the hiring post. They're hiring an electromechanical engineer. This is literally a job posting at Nintendo. And if you look at some of the requirements on here, this is where we get, like, you're going to be engineering CAD design, entry for electrical printed circuit board designs, yada, yada. You're obviously handling stuff that happens on the circuit board level. But here's the thing. Here's the requirements. 2+ years of related experience, mechanical design engineer. But this is where we want to point out right here. You want experience with high-speed signaling and power delivery on PCB designs that contain elements such as PCIe, DDR4, MIPI, and SD/SD Express. There it is. The first ever mention of SD Express in a Nintendo hiring post for an electrical engineer that's working on circuit board stuff for Nintendo. Now, obviously, this is pretty crazy. SD Express, by the way, if you want to know what that is, well, we can kind of look to Samsung because they've been the ones essentially pushing SD Express this year. So let's go ahead and look at what they got going on here. So Samsung's new, this is back in February of 2024, Samsung's new 800 megabyte per second micro SD card is the world's first to use SD Express. So this is the world's first card to actually use SD Express and has a minimum. When 800 megabytes per second, that's at minimum. They've been clocked at times. There's been tests ran on them of running up to a terabyte, which is still probably going to be about half the speed of what the internal storage is for Nintendo Switch 2, but still a massive boost over just the SD cards that we've been using in our Nintendo Switch. Now, so Samsung has developed a new line of SD Express micro SD cards that boast some seriously impressive specifications like 1 terabyte capacity, 800 megabyte per second transfer speeds. That sounds great on the surface, but isn't the whole story. Samsung announced it isn't for general availability. They actually are available now. You can buy these now. I don't think the 1 terabyte ones are out yet, but I know you can get a 256 for sure. I have seen those listed. So you can buy these now. Remember, this article is back in February. It says, with our 2 new micro SD cards, Samsung has provided effective solutions to address the growing demands of mobile computing and on-device AI. Despite their tiny size, these memory cards deliver powerful SSD-like performance and capacity to help users get more demanding, modern future applications. Now, obviously, these cards are going to be expensive. They're not cheap right now. The 256 is a bit. It's not like crazy unaffordable, but this is really what we want to see. We want to see Nintendo. We know they're not using the latest tech and everything, right? We already know like the T239 seems to be based on Ampere with a little bit of Lovelace in it, and now we're about to get 5000 series cards. Like, they're not using the latest and greatest technology throughout, but using this standard is great because one, you can put a micro SD Express card slot on the Switch and it can still support the old standard. So you can still use your current micro SD cards and all of that. That will be possible. But if you want faster load times, the user will have the option, if they would like to, spend more money and get the SD Express. So it's just a consumer option and one that is going to give you the best possible performance on Nintendo Switch 2. So just having that option, especially on a platform that's probably planning to be around for another 8 years, from 2025, I can see, all the way through, 2032 or 33, Nintendo's probably planning for Switch 2 to be a really long shelf life platform, just like Switch. So supporting this now, well, yeah, those might be expensive now. 5 years in, they might not be so expensive anymore because Nintendo will have the first mass consumer device that supports it. There are some fringe devices that support micro SD card Express, but there isn't that many. Nintendo Switch 2 would be one of the first mass consumer ones and could actually help drive the price down a little bit by increasing the unit demand, right? Like, basically, the more of them you make, the cheaper they can be. That's how it works. Like, the less of them you make, the more expensive it is. So, Nintendo could actually be the reason they become affordable. So this is just exciting news in general. 2 really big pieces of news based on fact-based stuff. One requires a little bit of speculation. The other, Nintendo just says it straight out. They're hiring someone that has to have experience with it. That's awesome. Why would they have to have experience with it? Because you're using it, right? So, oh man, I'm so excited about this. You guys let me know what you think about all this stuff down in the comments below. I got to get going. I got to get this video edited and put out. We got a live stream tonight with the Packers game. Go, Pack, go. Hopefully you don't lose the Lions. Probably will, but what are we going to do? We're going to get excited about Switch 2 together. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I'll catch all of you guys in the next video.